For nearly the last 60 years, the Ford Mustang has been known as the quintessential American muscle car. And for 2024, there's an all-new version. This is known internally as the S650. And as you can see on the outside, Ford has given it a new look front and rear. It's got an all-new interior with completely redesigned tech interfaces. And for you enthusiasts out there, there's also more power under the hood for the EcoBoost and, of course, the naturally aspirated V8. So today we're actually out here just outside of Los Angeles, California to drive the all-new Mustang GT. And the big question I want answered, has Ford made enough changes to this new model to keep enthusiasts flocking to showrooms? Stay tuned to find out. So I want to first apologize for the state of my voice. I'm kind of getting over a cold. I also want to apologize to my editor, Rob, and everybody else who's been around me during this media drive, but the show must go on. So let's go ahead and talk about what's underneath the hood of the all-new Mustang GT. Now, first of all, the hood, when you lift it up, is held up by struts, which I really appreciate. I believe the previous generation had prop rods, but I'll have to double check that. But you can see here, with the GT Mustang, all of you probably want to know, what has Ford done with underneath the hood? Because this engine here is known as the 5-liter Coyote V8. It's a naturally aspirated V8 with direct and port injection. Ford has kept the V8 alive here. A lot of enthusiasts were expecting the company to go hybrid or go full electric. Thankfully for the new S650, it still remains either a turbo 4-cylinder or a 5-liter V8, and you can get this in two specific tunes, the Dark Horse giving you up to 500 horsepower. This model here, you can see the engine has been upgraded internally with new internals. It's got new injectors. It also has a new dual throttle body design, which Ford says was able to help them improve the power on this vehicle. So all 5-liter V8 Mustangs will have at least 480 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. Now this model here has the Performance Active exhaust system for $1,200. That improves the horsepower to 486 horsepower and 418 pound-feet of torque. Those are very healthy numbers. Remember, this V8 is naturally aspirated. It revs all the way up to 7,500 RPM, and you can still get your pick between either a 6-speed manual or a 10-speed automatic. This one here that I'm showing you is a GT Premium Convertible with the 6-speed manual. It also has the performance package. So the performance package includes the strut tower brace over here, also includes the limited slip differential. This vehicle is still only rear-wheel drive with a limited slip diff if you go for the performance package. And fuel economy, in case you care, is rated at 14 in the city, 23 on the highway. Sadly, this car is hit with an $1,100 gas guzzler tax. It's the reason why the V8 ended up being $1,000 more expensive than Ford anticipated. If you guys go for the automatic, it's rated at $15.24. Remember, this is on premium gas. This car has roughly a 16-gallon gas tank, so it's going to be requiring fill-ups, especially if you guys are, interested in listening to that V8 all the time. But Ford says 0 to 60 should be in the 4-second range. It should have a top speed of around 155 miles an hour. And as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just under 4,000 pounds. The convertible, the one you're seeing here, is roughly around 100 to 200 pounds heavier. The entire Mustang in general is within the same weight as the prior generation. But let's go ahead and close up the hood, which it's very, very hot out here. So we're gonna try to deal with the heat, and you're gonna have to deal with my voice. But the exterior styling of this vehicle is definitely more evolutionary in terms of revolutionary. I actually really like the way the new Mustang looks at the front end. Between the EcoBoost and the GT, they actually have two distinctive front ends. If you guys wanna see our full review on the EcoBoost, be sure to click in the link in the description below. This is gonna focus primarily on the GT. You can see the GT has its own unique grille where it has these kind of nostrils to the side of each of the grille. There's also this interesting kind of LED light in the actual top left-hand corner of the grille. It's in the top right-hand corner. On this side, you have the blacked out Pony logo there because this also has the Night Pony package. And you can see the headlights. All Mustangs come standard with full LED headlights. You have sequential LED turn signals in the back, LED daytime running lights, no fog lights on this vehicle, but you can see down at the lower fascia, there are some functional and non-functional air vents. You can see on the passenger side, this little area here is non-functional, but here on the driver's side, it is functional. It allows air again to pass through to cool the brakes, to cool the engine. The GT also has this functional heat extractor here. That's how you know you have the V8 model. I also love how it's painted black. It looks really good, contrasting with the race red exterior. You can see Mustangs still have a massive hood with this nice hood bulge to make room, of course, for that 5-liter naturally aspirated V8. But moving around the side profile, you can see the Mustang still rides on the same architecture as the old S550. but Ford did increase the overall length by about an inch, so around 189.5 inches long. This is still a pretty big vehicle. In fact, a lot of you have said the side profile, this car really looks like the Chevrolet Camaro, which I kind of see it in the rear haunches and in the fender flares. But again, the Mustang is going to be one of the last muscle cars available because Chevy is discontinuing the Camaro next year, and then Dodge is discontinuing the Challenger next year, and they're making it all electric. So this is one of the last muscle cars remaining. You can see the wheels. These are an optional wheel that's included when you guys go for the performance package. You can see they're kind of black finish. They're a 19-inch wheel. It's a staggered setup, so you have a 255 by 40 in the front, a fatter 275 in the rear. These are Pirelli P0 tires. Not my favorite in terms of a high-performance summer tire. I'd probably swap them out for a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. You can see the brake rotors are also upgraded with the performance package. You have a 6-piston Brembo at the front, a 4-piston Brembo at the rear, so you really get a lot of goodies when you spend that extra $4 grand for the performance package. Now you can see you've got the 5-liter badges here. That's always been the case when Ford introduces Coyote V8 Mustang to show everybody you have the V8. The Night Pony package also blacks out the side mirrors over here, but there is an integrated turn signal that's included, I believe, when you go for the premium package. I like how there's no more chrome here along the belt line. This model here, as you can see, is the convertible. The convertible top is just a soft top. It's power operated. It also doesn't really take up any space into the trunk, which is nice. And you also technically have more rear seat headroom if you guys go for the convertible, which is kind of interesting that Ford gave it more space versus the 2-door version. Now at the rear, this is where I think the look is a little bit more controversial. Ford also says they leaned a lot on heritage for the design, especially with the way you have this kind of crease going in and kind of like cutting the taillight portion. You can see sequential LED taillight with the signature 3 light bars look very distinctive at night. This model here is also missing like a spoiler on the back. It looks very naked without a spoiler, so I would easily, have that option added back in. There's a little Easter egg here when you guys go for the performance package. On the GT badge here, it'll actually say performance to show everybody at the rear that you actually opted in to get the performance package, so it's a nice little touch over there. And then down here you can see it's got the quad outlet exhaust. This is a signature look for the Mustang. However, if you guys don't get the active exhaust for $1,200, you'll just have a dual exhaust setup. This exhaust sounds phenomenal. I mean, the fact that you can still get a V8 is glorious in today's day and world. So let's go ahead and start up that engine. You can hear how it sounds real quick. Ears. Oh my God, it's so loud. I thought it was gonna spit fire at me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die back here. So as you guys heard, that is one glorious sound. I'm gonna miss it when Ford eventually goes all electric for the next generation Mustang. But let's go ahead and take a look at the trunk. Like I said earlier, the convertible top doesn't take up space in the trunk, but it does have a little bit less space versus the coupe. The coupe has around 13 cubic feet of storage space. The convertible has around 11.5. So it's still very usable. You can see we've got our stuff in here. We also have the backpacks and camera gear from the Fastlane cars. So it all kind of fits in here pretty nicely. The seats, they do fold down, but it's got a really small pass-through. So overall, if you need more trunk capacity, obviously you want to get the coupe, but the convertible is still a very usable cargo area as well. So now let's go ahead and move on to the interior of this all-new 7th generation Mustang. But before we do that, I want to show you guys the convertible top. This is with the top up. As you can see, Ford only offers, I believe, a black cloth soft top, which again looks really good with the race red exterior. Let me go ahead and hop inside, however, and show you guys how to put the top down. Before I do that though, close the door. It has a pretty nice solid sounding thunk, and then when you want to start the vehicle up, you can see here's the key fob for the vehicle. It's actually still the same key as the old Ford Mustang. Now, because this vehicle is a manual, it doesn't have the remote rev feature, which I'm hoping I'll be able to show you guys later on when we find an automatic GT, but it has the push button start to start the vehicle up. Start stop button is down here. And that engine, as you guys can hear, sounds amazing. I mean, it sounded so good from outside, but even from the driver's seat, it's a really nice sounding V8. Now, to open the top, you basically pull this little latch down, you twist it, that releases the top, and then you push this button here, and you can see in probably like less than 20 seconds, it goes down pretty fast, and that's it. It doesn't take up any space in the back of the vehicle and the trunk of the vehicle. But now that we're inside the car, let's go ahead and talk about the all-new interior. Now, first of all, these seats, you can see these are the premium comfort seats. The GT convertible only comes as the premium spec. It's an extra $5,000 over a non-premium. On the coupe version, you can see these are the real leather seats. They're heated and ventilated seats. You have 12-way power adjustment for both the front seats, and you also have 3-person memory here on the the driver's side. I will say in this 100-degree heat, the cooled seat in this car works extremely well. So bravo Ford for giving us really nice cooled seats. You can see the steering wheel also has been completely redesigned. I love the fact that Ford now offers a flat bottom design steering wheel. You used to have to get a Shelby model to get the flat bottom wheel. You have a really nice 9-3 grip. You have the Mustang logo over here. You have controls here, a lot of hard buttons on the steering wheel. And then when you look at the door panel here, you can see Ford says they've upgraded the interior materials where you have soft touch injection molded plastic here, a carbon fiber look plastic trim over here, and then it's nice and padded over here. The window controls, they're the typical Ford switchgear. They actually feel almost the same as the previous generation, but you have one-touch windows for both of the front. You also have a rear quarter panel window that you can go up and down when you have the top up and down as well. Now in terms of the steering wheel itself, you have a manual tilt and telescoping. It offers a good amount of adjustability and range, so you can kind of get really comfortable. That's the thing about the Mustang, is it's a big enough vehicle where you can get really comfortable even for taller folks. I will say though, if you guys want the Recaro seats, it's not available on the Convertible. It's only on the Coupe. It's part of an extra charge. These are going to be the more comfort-oriented seats where it's also power and you also have heated and ventilation controls. Now, looking at the dash, you can see the dash has been completely redesigned. Ford has done away with the cowl, the dual cowl theme that has been on Mustangs for generations. Now they did that because they wanted to give us a very modern looking screen. Now a lot of you enthusiasts out there may be pissed that Ford did this, but I think it's actually a nice welcome change. It's different, and the beauty about this is it allowed Ford to extend the size of the infotainment system. So all Mustangs now come standard with a 13.2-inch center touchscreen here that runs on Sync 4 in the higher trims, and it also has graphics made by Unreal Engine. So it's a video game inspired graphics. It all looks good. You can see it also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And then you can see in the driver's side, you have a fully digital 12.4-inch instrument panel, which allows you to kind of customize the gauges. If you guys don't get a premium trim, the gauge cluster here won't be connected by this kind of curved piece of glass. Instead, you'll just have a kind of like a little pass through here. I think it's kind of silly how Ford offers two different styles. I think they should have just gone with one, but you can see here every Mustang has the big screen, which is nice. The door panel or the dashboard materials, you can see same soft touch injection molded plastic. You have a Mustang placard over here with the carbon fiber look trim. The premium trim also includes the stitching, the genuine stitching here on the dash, which looks nice, more of the carbon fiber look. I like the dash vents. Also, Ford has done away with the circular dash vents, but again, I think it's a nice welcome change. But let me quickly focus here on the infotainment system, because as you can see here, this is with my phone connected with wireless CarPlay, and you can actually, it looks like, make this a full screen, which is really great to find. I love how this is actually similar to what Honda does on the new Accord. You just touch that little button there. It extends the screen out to completely take up the entire 13.2-inch display with still kind of the climate controls that are staying put over here, which is good because there are no more hard climate buttons. Instead, you kind of have to rely on the screen, but this looks really great. It's got really quick graphics, or really quick responses, beautiful looking graphics. And if you want to go back to the split screen, you can see Ford allows you to put your different widgets and sources over here, from your trip computer to your fuel economy information to your audio to your navigation. Let's go back here to the home display, however, because I want to show you guys the new kind of layout here with Unreal Engines. It has really a nice, it's really easy to use as well. It's really well laid out. It has like all these different shortcuts. You can also go to the My Mustang feature here, where you can kind of change the instrument cluster. Now, first of all, the cluster, you can have it match the drive mode, but I want you guys to check this out. If I switch it over to sport here, you can see there's where the sport gauges look like. The track gauges also have their own look to it, where it gives you a big tachometer. There's also a calm display, where if you don't want all this information, it gives you just a really small speedo and tachometer. And then there's also this change here, Fox body. This is for those of you who are Fox body fans. You can have this kind of retro inspired gauge cluster, which again looks really cool, but it's in a modern interpretation where it's a full screen. Personally, for me, I actually personally like the sport function as well the most, but again, that's great that Ford kind of also offers all this different customization. There's also My Color here, where you can change the ambient lighting. That's included when you guys go for the premium trims, where it gives you the My Color ambient lighting, and you also have the 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo. For those of you who get tired of listening to that V8, the sound system in this car also works really well. Now down over here, you can see you have your volume knob, which is nice. You have a couple of shortcut buttons here where you can access the drive mode selector over here, as well as here on the steering wheel. You have a wireless phone charging pad, which it fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max really nicely. And then the manual transmission. You can see the clutch in this car is pretty light. It has probably a medium amount of travel. You can see it has really nice short throws. I love the manual transmission. For $2,000, you can also get an automatic. If I pull up on this ring and go all the way here, you can see that's reverse for you. And there's the backup camera. Ford does not offer a full 360 camera, but you can see it has parking sensors, it has trajectory, front and rear. It's a really nice graphic and resolution, which is nice. And then this right here, you can see is controversial. This is the drift brake. So it's technically an electronic parking brake, where as you can see, it feels like a regular actual handbrake that's connected by a cable linkage. However, as you can see, it also returns back to center. When it returns back to center, again, that makes the brake system feel really strange. To put the brake down, you have to actually just push down on it, and that's what actually puts the brake down, which, sorry about that, I forgot I wasn't hitting the brake. To pull the brake up, you have to pull up on it, and it's electronic again. So to push down on the brake, you push down on it, that releases the handbrake, and then you pull up on it, and that will give you the handbrake again. So it's a really interesting design. It takes some getting used to, but we have some footage actually from the EcoBoost drive where I was drifting this thing using the drift brake.
Through, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, pull, and then throttle, a little bit. We need a little bit more throttle rotate, excuse me, a handbrake to get it hard to rotate.
Gotcha, okay.
Pull and hold. Perfect. Dude, you're right in the box, dude.
Oh,
sick.
All right.
Let's do it again.
All right. Yeah, I can see this is something that just takes a little practice to get it right. Yeah. So a little more handbrake this time.
Yeah, a little bit more handbrake. You want it to rotate almost, you want to pull the handbrake and let it rotate almost a little bit past 90 degrees.
Okay.
And then boom, right on the throttle. You don't have to be easy with it. You just
once I apply the throttle, let go of the e-brake.
Yeah, absolutely. Let go of that handbrake before you give it throttle, or else it'll stop it.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, let's try it again. Excellent, dude. Slow here. That was it. See how good that was?
Yeah. That was fun. Wow.
Come through here. Brake. Hold. Dude, you're gonna take my job. Let's do it again.
You can see over here cup holders. You have more stitching along the center console, and then you have a center console right here where you can open it up. You have a little bit of storage over here. In terms of USBs, you have a USB-A and a USB-C over here, which again, all the usual tech conveniences that you want. And then, but let me go ahead and hop into the back seat area, because the convertible, surprisingly, is actually the back seat that has a little bit more space. So when you move this seat up a little bit, you can basically just pull this little lever over here, and that allows you to get back here. Now, we actually had two full-size men back here, and my editor, Rob, he's like 6 foot. He was able to sit back here, and even with the roof up, you still have enough headroom, although it's not great. Like, I wouldn't put Rob back here or somebody over 6 feet for over an hour, but on shorter drives, you can see for somebody my height, this is not where I'd have the driving position, but you can see legroom back here is fine, knee room is okay. I'd say there's probably like under 28, 29 inches of legroom back here. I don't think Ford gave us that number, but you can see the downside with the seat is it's narrow. So if you guys are a wider frame, you're not gonna fit really well in here. I'm also surprised there's not like an armrest here or any kind of cup holder. So in terms of features, it's pretty Spartan, but it is nice that the convertible is the one that gives you slightly more legroom and slightly more headroom versus the two-door coupe model. All right, guys, so here we are finally behind the wheel of the all-new 7th generation Mustang. And as you can see, I am joined by a great YouTuber that I've known for a few years. This is David Patterson from That Dude in Blue, in case you guys don't know who he is. Thanks you so much for joining us, David.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he is a Mustang guy. I mean, you have 2 Mustangs.
That's right.
So you know the Mustang very, very well.
Yeah.
Although we haven't driven the GT yet. We're only in the EcoBoost for now.
Yeah, and upon first impression, I realized that most of my EcoBoost video is going to be on track. So you'll explain why in a second.
Yeah, so I'm gonna focus primarily on the road because, you know, to be honest, I haven't driven an EcoBoost Mustang since I had one as a rental car from like a Hertz a few years ago. So it's been a while, but Ford has made some very nice upgrades to the engine. So the 2.3 liter has a new turbo, it has a new intake and exhaust. It makes 315 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. And that is actually more horsepower and torque than the old 05 Mustang GT.
By a lot. The torque especially.
The torque is a lot. The horsepower is like the same, but it's still very, very impressive. So, I mean, if you're going for a base Mustang now, there's really not much to be ashamed about. The only thing that you should be upset about, though, is the fact that you can't get this car with a manual transmission anymore. You have to step it up to the GT, which I understand why Ford did it, because, I mean, enthusiasts are going to want the V8 anyways. But if you guys are on a budget, this is where, you know, if you're trying to compare this car to like a GR86, you can't get a manual anymore in the base engine. So that's kind of a little bit sad.
And of course, the one I really wanted to try has the drift brake in it.
Right.
And the drift brake, you know, was such a cool feature because it acts a lot.
I have to stop you
this is the
for a second
perfect
because
spot.
I wanted to see what we can get 0 to 60 wise.
Just brake stand it. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I guess I should have turned off the traction control. 5.96 there.
And it did it wrong. That's still pretty solid. Like, so if I remember right, my 3-valve Mustang, which is the one you were mentioning, like I had an 06. It did 0 to 60 in like 5.3 or something like that. So with just your BS launch, you know,
without the limited slip diff. Like this car doesn't have a limited slip diff. It has Continental all-season tires on it too.
Yeah, it's not even on a nice tire.
Yeah, so this is literally the spec that you're going to pick up from a Hertz or an Enterprise.
Except the exterior, the body itself looks really good.
It does, and this model also has the performance exhaust, the active exhaust for $1,200. Which, what do you think of the sound, David?
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's not, I don't think it's offensive. I don't think it's amazing. I think the EcoBoost motors have this weird reputation of like, they'll make a lot of power, because I modify cars, that's like where I come from. Like, if you take Explorer ST, you can make them run 10s with like a downpipe, a tune, and exhaust or whatever, or a low 11.
Right.
And you see what I mean though about the steering?
Yeah, this doesn't really give me that kind of playfulness. Like, it doesn't give me the confidence to go faster around corners because I can't really tell what the front tires are doing. It doesn't give me the heft that I'm looking for. So yeah, this model that we're driving, definitely like rental grade spec, but it's still a nice driving vehicle. It still has plenty of power, plenty of torque. It rides well too. Like, if you're looking for a more comfortable riding Mustang, you're gonna want the all-season Continental.
Yeah, and we're on a bumpy road.
Yes, this is a really terrible road, but it, you know, it's soaking up the bumps really nicely. The visibility in this car is also good. It's way better than like Camaro or Challenger.
Oh God.
And the Supra.
I'll start ranting about that because to quote Matt Farah on the Supra, he said it's like driving a hoodie. You know, like if you put your hood up and drove.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away from how great the manual Supra is. It's just, okay, maybe a little bit, but it's just hard to see out of. The Mustang in general has always been, I think, the easiest one out of the big three to drive.
Right.
And also be comfortable in when it comes to your spatial awareness. They're big cars, like all of them are big, but I've always felt the most confident in the Mustang.
So now we are finally behind the wheel of the GT Mustang. We've actually switched over to a coupe, and I can see I've also picked up a passenger. Please welcome Tommy from the Fastlane car. Thanks for joining us, Tommy.
Hey, Sophian, thanks for having me, and I know your voice is starting to kind of conk out a little bit, so I'll help you out as best I can.
Well, thank you, Tommy. So you guys can hear, doing the full review earlier has really taken a toll on my voice, so I'm gonna try my best to talk as much as possible, at least hopefully you guys can hear me, but we switched over to a coupe because in front of us, Alex on Autos is there with her videographers, kind of doing like a chase car, and they're in the convertible. But here on this canyon road here in Angeles Crest, you want to be in the coupe because that model there had so much cowl shake. And in this model here, it definitely feels a lot more stiff, but we also have the Recaro bucket seats, which, what do you think of the seats, Tommy? Do you like them?
I like the seats for a limited number of use cases. Like, if you are planning on tracking this car regularly, the Recaros are great, but I have the strength of a squirrel and a gerbil combined, and even with my narrow shoulders, the seats are tight. Yeah, and you're skinny, Tommy. I'm like average build, or definitely not as skinny as you, but they definitely feel constricting. So if you're very wide, you're not gonna want these seats, but I have to say, here on this canyon road, where there's a lot of curves, this car definitely has the seats to kind of hold you in place. Although I will say, the steering in this car, Tommy, I don't know if you noticed it, is way too light for me. What do you think? Well, have you played with any of the different modes? Do you want to, are you in sport mode right now? I'm in sport mode right now. It's kind of got like sport everything, but I know you can kind of adjust it manually if you'd like. But I kind of had the same issue in the EcoBoost when I drove that yesterday, where I thought the steering was too light. I was expecting this car to have slightly heavier steering, and it doesn't. But what's interesting to me is, you know, they call this a new generation, but driving this car on this back road, it feels a lot like the old Mustang. What do you think? Yeah, I would describe it as very similar. Yes. Now we have to talk about the engine. That 5-liter Coyote V8 engine is an amazing powertrain. Yes. So revs all the way up past 7,000 RPM, and unlike old pushrod V8s of days gone by, it wants to rev. It wants to be in those higher RPMs.
Oh yes, I love the sound. Like literally put your foot down, it just keeps revving all the way up to that red line, and it sounds good.
Now we do have 4 different exhaust settings, ranging from quiet to a track only setting. And this exhaust, I mean, it's a screamer.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the extra $1,200, it's worth it to get the active exhaust, because, I mean, if you want, you can put it into a quiet setting. Although I did notice at higher, or when you're driving on the highway and you have it in loud mode, it's a little boomy, but you can kind of fix that by just putting it into the quiet mode. But, I mean, really, the driving experience is classic American muscle car. You've got this, like, long hood that you have to see over. The car rides pretty well, I have to say. I think this one has the magno dampers as well. The manual, what do you think of the manual? I think it has pretty nice throws.
The transmission is darn near perfect.
Yes.
And the gearing is good too. What I like about it is it's not so tall where you're never shifting, but it's not like a Miata where you're constantly shifting. So you can take advantage of some of that low-end torque capability of the 5-liter and stick it in third and fourth and enjoy riding that wave of torque. Or you downshift a couple cogs, keep it up in higher RPM. It's very forgiving as well, and with the rev matching, even a novice can sound like a pro.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the active rev matching, which you can turn on and off through a little button here on the screen. But overall, like just driving this thing, it's a really easy car to drive. Now, in terms of the curb weight, like we hopped out of the convertible earlier, but this coupe definitely feels a lot more stiff. You don't hear anymore, you don't feel the cowl shake. It feels like a car that's capable of, you know, taking out on the track. Sadly, I won't be able to drive the Dark Horse because I'm not going to the event, but I think you guys are going to the Dark Horse event.
Yeah, we're sending our race car driver Paul to give us impressions. Right. I think that even with the performance pack which this car has, it's a little softly sprung on the limit, and even with the MagnaRide tuned up, it's a little bouncy in the rear end. Yeah. So it's very eager to get the rear end sideways, which is fun, but when you're on the limit, it gets a little squirrely with that rear end tuning.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting how it feels that way, because I haven't driven an S550 in a while, and I wish I could remember if that one felt that way as well. But Ford, I feel like they went with a softer tune with this new generation. I mean, it kind of makes sense. They want to make it easier to drive on a daily basis. But I guess if you guys are, you know, wanting it to be even more track capable, you may want to pony up for that Dark Horse.
It could also, and I know they're going to address this, right? Because it's Ford and they always hotter versions. It could use a little more tire, but the brakes are plenty. These 6-piston brakes in this GT Performance, incredible. It stops the car so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally 100 degrees outside. In the convertible, we had like 4 people, and Rob was definitely using those brakes, and I was like expecting them to start fading, and they were perfect still.
Yeah, brakes feel great. They're really, really, really good. And I have to say, you know, as a cohesive package, this car offers a lot of performance in a segment which is going away, right? Challenger Charger, as we know it, going away by the end of the year.
Right.
Camaro going away. Ford comes out with an all-new generation of naturally aspirated 480 horsepower V8 pony car. So they're diving back deep into what enthusiasts want, and you have to commend them for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Chevy kind of discontinuing the Camaro next year, and then Dodge as well going electric. This is really the last pony car out there, and this has pretty stiff competition. I mean, we have the Supra, you can get that for similar money. There's the new Z also. But really the Mustang kind of gives you the best practicality when you look at those Japanese offerings.
Yeah, I mean, and if you get the convertible, you can comfortably more or less seat 4. The coupe with the Recaros, no way are you going to get people back there.
No, we tried to get Tommy and my videographer Rob back there. They're like over 6 feet. It's like, no, it's torture.
Didn't go well.
I don't hate you that much, Tommy, to put you back there.
But you know, overall, this is, I think, the most refined generation of Mustang of all the gens we've seen. You know, it's got the nicest interior by far. It's got the most technology. But it still is able to really crank it up to 11 when you engage that active exhaust and stick it in track mode.
Yeah. So Tommy, quick question. Do you think Ford made enough changes to call this a new generation?
Well, Sufyan, when they launched this car, a lot of folks online were saying it was a facelift instead of an all-new gen.
Right.
Ford has doubled down and said, no, it truly is an all-new gen. They say they've changed all the sheet metal on the car. They've messed with the braking components, and of course the engine. That Coyote's got the new dual air intakes and the revised oil pan.
Right.
Here's the thing. It is a new car for me. Is it a big enough departure from the 550 to justify going out and buying a 650 if you're current owner? In my opinion, probably not. But if you have waited to buy a Mustang for this new generation, definitely buy it. Because it gives you a lot more technology and it gives you a lot of features and quality that the previous one didn't have. It's just not that different enough for me to say, this is a game changer for the Mustang lineup.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. I mean, obviously Ford wanted to be cautious. They were trying to keep the cost down, although I will say the convertible up there we were driving earlier is over $65,000. This one I believe is a little over 60, but if you can keep the options in check, I think if you can get a GT Coupe for around $50,000, I think that's probably the sweet spot for pricing for this new generation.
And you know, Sophia, after driving it in the canyons, it is impressive what they are able to do with the mass of the car and the capability of the car. But quite honestly, the car for me is going to be a GT Coupe non-performance pack.
Oh, really?
Just the cruiser. Because I love this Coyote, but if you want a strict canyon car, there are better options like the Supra, even like, you know, something small and agile like the Miata. So get the comfy spec Mustang with the performance exhaust, and that's the one I would go for.
Cool, awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Tommy.
Thanks for your help, dude. I really appreciate the chance to work with you.
All right, so Tommy and I managed to find a straight road, a decent straight road to do a quick 0 to 60 time. And we actually switched to an automatic model because I think this is the one that's gonna be better to get the fastest times. Now, this car does have a drag strip mode, although we haven't figured out how to get the launch control to engage. We'll have to, you know, try to retest it at some point when Ford lets us know how to actually do the launch control, but I'm estimating it'll do it under 5. What do you think, Tommy?
I think it's going to be like 4 and a bit, Sophian, is my estimation.
Okay, so
there it goes.
That
Okay.
always kills me. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we can get here. And is yours ready?
No, but it's fine. Just do yours.
All right.
It's all good. We're good.
All right, ready? All right, that was a little too much throttle. Hold on.
Sophia's doing a burnout on the street.
Ooh, that thing shifts fast, 4.71, which I think that time is pretty good. Obviously, we're not on a prep surface. We don't really have like the right ground or the right area to do it in, so I'll take the 4.7. I think it's a really good time. I think for most people, you're just gonna floor it. It's gonna have plenty of power and enough performance to kind of get this thing going down the road.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, and it's got like torque wherever you want it, and the 10-speed, the automatic, really bangs out shifts. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I do like this 10-speed. Actually, Ford has done a good job with kind of updating the software on this transmission over the years, and it's not quite as good as the 8-speed, but you know, for those of you who don't want to shift your own gears, which in LA traffic here, you don't want to drive manual, I think that this is still a really great option. So after spending the day driving the all-new 2024 Mustang GT, I have to say Ford has made some really nice improvements to the S650 to make this vehicle a worthy upgrade if you guys own an S550. Obviously, the chassis of this car is still the same, so when you drive it out on the road, it still very much feels like the old Mustang in terms of the handling, in terms of the ride, in terms of the acceleration. Obviously, I love the active exhaust. I think it's a worthy $1,200 if you guys want to hear the most noise out of your Mustang. The interior has been a huge upgrade. I love the new tech. I love the new infotainment display. I don't care about the fact that Ford did get rid of the dual cowl look. I think it's a nice, welcome change that I think owners, once they get used to it, are going to also appreciate it. Ford did say that they altered the suspension and the steering. I didn't really notice it too much on my first drive, but I'll have to wait until I get one of these back home where I can fully test the vehicle out for a full week. We can see if Ford has made some updates to the ride and handling. Obviously, if you guys go for the V8, you don't really care about fuel efficiency. And while I do wish that Ford offered a hybrid option here on the new Mustang. Clearly, there's actually space underneath the hood. If you guys remember our EcoBoost review, there's a lot of room underneath the hood for kind of like a hybrid option. I suspect they're gonna be working on that, obviously, for the next generation when they go full electric. Really, the biggest downside for me with the new Mustang is how expensive this car has gotten. Now, obviously, if you guys want the convertible version, the convertible is far more expensive. It's about a $5,000 premium over the regular version, and you can't get a convertible without the premium package. Now, if you guys want the GT trim is gonna at least cost you around $42,500. That's plus destination. So really, you're gonna be spending around 44 grand if you guys want the GT. That's a far cry from maybe like 5 years ago when you could get a GT for under $40,000. So it's kind of insane how expensive the V8 has become. But if you guys want the convertible GT like this one here, that's gonna start at least $53,500. I will say that this one here has way too many options on it. It's ballooning the price to over 66 grand. grand. 66 grand for me is probably about $10,000 more expensive than I think this car is worth, but as you guys saw from all the upgraded tech, the new look of this car, the extra power, it certainly is still a great performance bargain if you guys are looking for dollar per horsepower. But for me, if it was my money, I would go for the two-door coupe, spend around $50,000, keep the options in check, and what you have here is a nearly 500 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission muscle car, and again, in this segment, the Mustang is going to become in a class of its own because the Camaro is being discontinued next year, and then Dodge is going completely electric with the all-new Challenger. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Ford Mustang GT Convertible. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.